Good to see you. Good to see you, everybody. All right, so I am proceeding with the series where I am answering questions that many of you sent to me a couple of weeks ago. A few weeks ago, I gave a platform where I asked people to ask me questions. So I asked a simple question that if somebody had the opportunity to sit with me one-on-one, what questions would they ask me? And in the last 4 weeks or so, I have been doing these live sessions to try to answer about 100 plus questions that I received from different people. Questions about personal growth, career, and business. And in today's session, for the next 30 minutes or so, I will be answering 3 more questions today, which I feel that they are very important questions, and many questions were overlapping. So if you don't hear me answering your question, or maybe your question is relatable to another question that somebody already asked, please, as you're joining, leave a comment. Where are you following the live session from? And please kindly share. And if you have questions that you would like me to answer in this live session, please, you can drop it in the comment section, and I will do my best to answer when I'm done responding to these 3 questions. Very exciting questions that many people ask, and I will do my best to respond to them. All right, so for those that are joining now, this is like the 4th live session I am doing answering these questions, and recorded sessions on my YouTube channel. You can just go on YouTube and type Dr. Javni Joybert, and you will see many of the previous live sessions, or even on this page where you are following that session from. All right, the first question I'll be answering is from Echon Sylvia, and she runs a beauty business. Her question is, how can I scale a beauty business? She's asking the question from Douala. How can I scale a beauty business? I always say that if you are a serious business person and you're thinking long term, one of the most important things that should bother you is scaling. If you run a business and you have never really seriously sit down to ask yourself, how can I take this business to the next level, then you are just maybe doing that business to pass time, or you're just doing that business for doing sake. But anybody who is a serious entrepreneur, anybody who is a serious business person is always thinking about scaling. How can I take this business to the very next level, right? And I think that for her asking this question, it shows me that she is that long-term thinking entrepreneur who desires to take her business from point A to point B. And the issue of scaling actually depends on who is asking the question. It depends on the type of business. It depends on the industry. It depends on the location. But what I can say is that depending on where you are, what level you are, you can scale any business. And what does scaling mean? Scaling means growing the business all around, taking it to the next level all around. Maybe you're scaling your production capacity so you can serve more customers and enter new markets. Scaling can also mean scaling your team so you can get more hands to do more work efficiently and effectively. Scaling can also mean that you just want to enter new markets and acquire new customers so you make more money. Scaling can also mean that you are looking for different channels where you can get new customer leads so you can convert them to paying customers. Scaling can also mean that you are scaling the technology. Maybe you're buying more softwares and more hardwares and laptops, all of these things. Whatever that you're doing just to move that business to the next level, you can call it scaling, right? And she runs a beauty business. So her question is, how can I scale a beauty business. Now, I will just share general perspective here, and if she was live, I could have asked her, more detailed question, or even send her a request to join live, kind of, right? But if you want to scale a business, one of the most important things that people don't think about when it comes to scaling a business is the entrepreneur. If you don't scale yourself, you cannot scale a business. You get a point? If you don't scale your mental intelligence, if you don't scale your information, you don't scale your knowledge, you don't scale your skills, you cannot scale a business, because you will never build a business beyond the quality of your knowledge. You understand? You can never build a great company beyond the quality of your knowledge. So when you are thinking of scaling your business, one of the most important things to think about is, how can I scale myself? How can I scale my mental intelligence? How can I scale my skills? How can I upskill, reskill? How can I scale the way I acquire information? Because if you, let's say for example, how can you scale customer acquisition if you don't have the right skills when it comes to lead generation, or converting those who are leads already, or you don't have the right skills when it comes to marketing strategies and all of that, right? Then the second part about scaling a business is, sometimes you don't ask, what can I do? You ask, who can I get to do this? Sometimes to scale a business, you focus on getting the person that can do what you cannot do, so you can move the business to the next level. But this particular scaling strategy works for people that have the money to pay the experts to do what they cannot do. So that's the second thing. Who can I get to do this? For example, let's go back to the marketing I was talking about. If you are thinking of scaling your business, there's no way you can do that without thinking about marketing. And in this dispensation, digital marketing is very important, right? But if you don't have the skills of digital marketing, you may need to hire a digital marketing expert to actually do that for you, right? So in this case, in terms of how to scale, you're thinking of, who can do this so I can move my business to the next level. The third thing about scaling is courage. Many a times people have not scaled because of courage. For example, for some businesses, for you to scale your business, you may need to open a new branch in a bigger city or in a bigger country, for example, right? And many a times, if you don't have the courage and your risk capacity is not wide enough, you can remain small as a business person without scaling, because you lack the courage to scale and your risk capacity is not big enough for you to take that very step. There are some people now that the only way that they can scale is for them to move to a different country and open a branch in that country. But if they don't have the courage to take that step and the risk capacity to embrace that risk and take it, they will not be able to scale that business, right? The fourth thing I'll talk about scaling, if you're going to scale a business, is you can start thinking of, will you need to scale your equipment and infrastructure? Exactly. There are some businesses that there is no way that you can scale without scaling the infrastructure, without scaling the equipment and the tools. Maybe for some people, you need to buy new software, new laptops, new tools, or whatever that you can get, but you will need to scale the hardware that you use to do the work that you do, right? So you start thinking in that particular area. So if you are in the beauty business, do you need to scale in that direction? The fifth thing, I think, so I can talk about scaling like for the next 24 hours. There are different ways to scale a business depending on, as I said, depending on who is asking the question, depending on the type of business, the location, the industry, and many other dynamics, right? So, but the last thing I'll talk about that anybody can do is, in this dispensation, if you're thinking of scaling a business, think of how to scale attention and branding around that business. The more you can scale the attention that you can attract towards the business, the more you can scale that business in terms of marketing and sales, right? Attention is a powerful currency. Anybody who can build attention manage attention and monetize attention will always make money. So if you are in a business and you're thinking of scaling the business, think of how you can scale your attention. For example, how can you scale to making sure that when you post a video on TikTok or Instagram or different platforms, that video can get 20,000 views. And if you can keep scaling your views, that is attention. When you keep having that attention now, if you learn how to monetize and convert that attention into leads and paying customers, that's how you're going to scale your sales, and of course, you're going to scale your profit. So I hope that these 5 different points I have shared around scaling a business will definitely help somebody. Right? Good. The next question is, I said I'll answer 3 questions today. And if you have a question that you think I can answer, you can share that question on the comment section and I will react to it. So, the first question I've answered is, how can I scale a beauty business? Now, there is a book that I have written. I have 6 published books on Amazon. There's a book on, that book is not here. There's a book on Amazon that if you're thinking of scaling, in that book I've documented over 40 marketing and sales strategies that anybody can employ to grow a business, and they can also help a lot in scaling that business. Anybody in Europe, America, Middle East, Canada, anywhere where there's Amazon and delivery, you can order it online and get the book. It's going to help you in that. The second question I want to answer today is, I like the question, very insightful question. The question is from Anim Asobo. I hope I got the name right. Anim Asobo. The question is, how can one become knowledgeable in a career? How can one become very knowledgeable in a career, right? Because it's a she, I think. She's saying, because I struggle to think outside of the box in this field, right? Very valid question. How can she's asking the question, how can she become very knowledgeable in a career and she is struggling to think outside the box? I'm sure a lot of people may have this same challenge, right? Because I always say that the marketplace rewards mastery. The marketplace rewards people that can bring value into the industry or to the table. And it takes intentionality and commitment for you to be what they call a thought leader, an industry captain, or whatever in any industry. And one of the ways that you can become a thought leader, you can become an industry captain, become a highly sought after, is for you to become very knowledgeable about your industry. But for some people, if I come here, for some people, their problem is not how to become knowledgeable. Some people have not picked an industry yet where they want to become experts. I always say that the best thing that can happen to anybody between the age of 18 and 25 is for that person to pick an industry where they want to grow in and become the best they can be in that industry. Many people are not yet able to achieve a certain level of success and result in their industries or in their careers or in their personal lives because they are not even professionals in any industry. They are basically everywhere, but at the same time, they are nowhere. And with the world being so noisy, 8 billion people, if you are everywhere, you will end up being an average performer. And good people, top players, top companies, top stakeholders don't like to deal with average players. They like to deal with people that can bring the highest level of value in the particular industry. So if you are going to win big, one of the foundations you need to get right is, which industry do I desire to become a key player in? It could be healthcare, it could be agriculture, it could be education, it could be IT, it could be cybersecurity, it could be real estate, it could be media headers, new media and old media, story for another day, right? It could be fashion designing, it could be beauty. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of different industries, right? So if you have not decided, and anybody at any age can decide to pick an industry, and also you can switch from an industry if you see that the industry where you are no longer passionate about, you're no longer interested in it, or you don't see a future. I write a lot and talk a lot about the future of work and the future of organizations. If you feel that the particular industry where you are in, the future is at risk, or it will no longer be very relevant in the future, you can do what they call industry switch, right? Go to a different industry and start building a new career from there, if you want to do that, right? So that set aside, her question was, how can she become knowledgeable in the industry? Because she thinks that because she struggles to think outside of the box. I wish she mentioned a particular industry, it would have been more easier for me to be more specific. But let me share the general guidelines that I think can work for anybody in any industry. But again, I would like to say this. Please, if you are in any industry, aim for the stars. Aim to play the game of that industry to the highest level. I prefer you set goals to play this game at the highest level in your industry and do your best before not getting there, than just to have an average mindset, average goals. But of course, maybe some people are comfortable being, what they call on the street local champions, right? They're comfortable being in the local area and all of that. Me, I have always desired to play this game at the highest level, right? And I think that is where you also get to stretch yourself, your potentials, and see the incredible things that you can do. I have been privileged to speak and provide consulting in 20 plus countries, right? 4 continents. And I have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of playing at the highest level, or you keep striving to play at the highest level in your career. Now, and I've met different people, work with different people who are also struggling at a very lower level, and they desire to climb at the highest level. I've worked with people on coaching them on how to build industry credibility, build industry brand, and do all of these things that can just make you stand out in the industry where you have chosen to play as a key player. So I'll be sharing some general things that can work for anybody in any industry, because we are all following this live session from different industries, different backgrounds, and probably different countries, right? Now, number one, the first thing that you need to do if you want to be knowledgeable in your industry is seek to acquire foundational knowledge about that industry. Seek to acquire foundational knowledge about that industry. You see, this is where programs like diploma programs, HND programs, especially in Africa, or even first degree programs come in, right? Because I always say that I don't think that because you have a degree makes you a professional. That's just an entry level in any industry, right? But having the foundational knowledge of that industry where you desire to be a key player and to become very knowledgeable, a thought leader, and a highly sought after expert, you need to understand the foundation. You need to understand the basic foundational knowledge and principles that govern that particular industry, right? So let's say you want to be in finance, right? And if you cannot play the game of finance at the highest level, if you don't understand the basics of finance, you don't understand the basics of liability and assets, credit and debit, all these expenses and profit and revenue and margins and all of that, it's not going to help you in any way, right? So if you are going to play, you want to play at the highest level and become knowledgeable in your industry, make sure that you know the basics. pay the price and lay the right foundation. You can do an HND program, a degree program if you can, or you can just decide and just study, get books that cover those foundational stuffs and just go through thoroughly and make sure that you have acquired that particular knowledge, right? The second thing I would advise you to do if you want to become knowledgeable in a particular industry is identify industry leaders and leading institutions in your industry and follow them on relevant platforms. Because if you will remain updated about your industry and the new principles and frameworks and tools and whatever that governs your industry, you need to make sure that you follow or you are informed by the top leaders in that industry. For example, let us say that you desire to be a key player in cybersecurity, for example. You can start by going on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, even YouTube, and you do thorough research. You can go on Google and type top 10 experts in cybersecurity. Google will give you that. You can even use the Google AI, but top 10 this, and they will give you that. You copy their names on Google, go put that name on Twitter, put that name on LinkedIn, put that name on Facebook, follow all of them. When you do that, you can take time and go to their websites and look at their recent publications, look at their recent blog posts, read their, listen to their recent podcasts and interviews and all of that, right? Because it's not easy to become an expert or to know a lot about the topic, but you need to put in the hard work to do that. I also said leading institutions. If you are in cybersecurity, again, you can decide and research top 5, top 10 universities with the best cybersecurity programs. You go and follow those universities. You go to their website, look at their recent articles and publications about that field. Look at the recent professors who lecture in that field and follow them. This is what I do, right? Because you cannot be knowledgeable about an industry if you don't follow the key players in that particular industry. You begin to do that. The third thing I'll talk about is if you want to be knowledgeable about the industry, have what I call innovative learning curriculum. Like this is a personal learning program that you have for yourself where you make up your mind that in this time, maybe every day dedicate 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours just to study industry relevant information in that industry we want to become good, want to become great at. It's going to help you a lot. And the fourth thing I would encourage you to do is don't only read. When you read stuff, try to contextualize, try to interpret, try to process, try to implement it. There are people that read, but industry experts contextualize information, process it, and apply it. That's where wisdom comes in. Because knowledge acquisition is not enough. It is knowledge that is deployed with the purpose of learning, improving, and contribution that makes it powerful, right? You're going to do that. And the last thing I can talk about this point is it's a long lens. It's a very long game. There is no way you're going to become an expert in 2 weeks, in 1 week, right? The 10,000 hour principle states that if you're going to become an expert in anything, you must do that thing every day for 10,000 hours. And if you break down 10,000 hours into the life of an average performer, that's about 6 to 7 years of consistent studying and growth in that particular industry. Anybody you see that is celebrated as an expert, highly sought after in any industry, go and check. Go and check the story and how much time they have put in to become the people that they are and to become highly sought after. I hope that response is helping somebody. And yeah, good. Last question for today that I'm responding is from Sylvie Mboli. She decided to have my wife's name, right? All right, Sylvie Mboli. Very interesting question. She's asking, how can I forget about my failures and start over again? How can I forget about my failures and start over again? I'm confused and afraid on which business to do since I have failed with so many. Very valid question. Very valid question. If you have not failed in anything, raise up your hand so that we can come to you for mentorship. You know, and signs of, see, I like people that have a track record of failure. It shows that these are people who are up to something. People who stay in their comfort zone have nothing, they have no track record of failure, right? But show me somebody who is doing stuff, somebody who is trying to get things done in career and business. One thing that you will see behind them is a track record of trying and failing. And many a times, failing can be so draining. It can so drain you emotionally, and you can start thinking, or you can be so down that there is no way to stand back up. There is no inspiration, there is no motivation to even start over, right? As humans people who have emotions, it's totally normal to feel like that. So what am I trying to say? Don't feel bad that you lost motivation or inspiration because you failed. As human beings with emotions, we get to go through that. However, another advantage that we also have as human beings is that in every human being, God embedded into us a measure of courage, a measure of resilience, a measure of intelligence, a measure of faith, a measure of hope, a measure of seeing possibilities beyond the failure you're going through right now, right? And I always like to say that if you're going to succeed in business, you need to start seeing failure as a gift, not as a curse. People that failure hits them so hard and they lose the motivation to even start over anything is they get to see failure as a liability. They see failure as a curse. They see failure as something so bad. But one thing that changed my entrepreneurial journey was when I developed the concept and the principle of seeing failure as a gift. What can I pick up from this particular experience? Did I lose money? Of course. Did something happen? Of course. A lot of things went wrong. True. But I always like to ask the question, how long will you continue to cry and mourn because of what has failed already? It has failed already. There's nothing you're going to do about it. It's done. So you have two options, either to stay in the midst of failure or to take steps and move forward. And this is where there are certain things you do after failure from the place of discipline and revelation, not from the place of feelings. Because when you have failed truly, your feelings are hurt, heavily destroyed. Trust me. So, many a times, if you're going to rise back from failure, you need to rise beyond feelings. You need to rise looking at reasons, looking at self-discipline or a higher purpose why you need to start all over again. And I always like to emphasize that if you fail at anything and you don't lose two things, you bounce back. If you fail at anything and you don't lose your mind, you don't lose your heart, you bounce back. Many people that fail and don't bounce back, they lost their mind in the process and they lost their heart in the process. But show me somebody who's going through failure and still has clarity and can still think clearly and has high emotional intelligence I will show you somebody who will bounce back up and do it much better. And when you're bouncing back up, you're looking at failure as a gift. You start doing what they call gap analysis, right? As a business analyst, there's something we do known as gap analysis. You begin to realize, what are the gaps? What did I miss out? Because failure is a product of something. It's not. It doesn't just happen from thin air. It's caused by something. Maybe you missed something. Maybe you did not have the right knowledge, the right skills, the right information, the right support, the right amount of money. There's always something that causes people to fail. Or maybe you did the whole stuff from the place of assumptions and guesswork and excitement. There's always something. I have failed in a couple of businesses, and anytime I do gap analysis and proper failure analysis, I always see, oh, you missed this. You missed this. You did not take care of this. You did not anticipate this. You see? So you always notice that, right? So to bounce back from failure then is look beyond your feelings. Number one, establish a higher purpose. People that have a higher purpose of why they're living or why they're doing anything, no amount of failure can stop them. That's why discovering your purpose is important. That's why having a clear why of why you're doing what you do is very important, right? Number two, if you're going to bounce back from failure, is don't use your present circumstance to conclude on your future self. Because you failed today does not mean that you'll be a failure 2 weeks from now. No. The challenge is many people use the present situation and they conclude on themselves. Meanwhile, you and I don't know tomorrow. I mean, the next 1 hour, you don't know what's going to happen. You can only anticipate. You can only imagine. You can only guesswork. You can only live by faith. But in reality, you and I, we don't know what is going to happen the next minute or the next 1 hour. Right? Therefore, what am I trying to say? When you fail, do not use your present dispensation, your present circumstance, and conclude on your future self. Okay? Number 3 is always believe in future possibilities when you fail. There's something I call the concept of future possibilities. Anything can happen tomorrow. That's why I always say that those who give up never win, and those who keep going will always end up winning. So always believe in your future possibilities. Yes, I am struggling right now. I have failed right now. I have lost money right now. But tomorrow, these are the possibilities. What are the possibilities? You can succeed. You can have a bigger company. You can have millions of dollars, millions of francs. You can have real estate. There are many possibilities available to you if only you believe in it. If only you can change it. Right? The Bible says that, the greatest of all, right? We have faith, hope, and love. These 3 are very important. Show me somebody with hope and faith and love, that person will always have a chance at life, right? The last thing about failure is make sure you learn as much as possible from your gap analysis. When you do your gap analysis while you failed, learn, fill the gaps. Any gap analysis that you do, when you find the gaps, fill the gaps. Because you will need the skills, the knowledge, the information, and all of that so you can produce more and achieve more tomorrow. Okay? And again, about failure is when you also see failure as a training ground for a greater purpose, it helps you a lot. Okay? Because failure, first of all, attacks us just mentally, emotionally. That's where the big thing happens with failure. So if you handle that, you will always bounce back. So those are the 3 questions that I picked up to answer today. Let me see if some people dropped some questions live. Okay, so there's a question here from Emanuela. how can someone who has nothing like startup capital do to generate income? All right, you have ideas and no money. That's the assumption, right? The truth is, it is not the lack of resources that keep people bound. It is the lack of resourcefulness that keep people bound. If you are not resourceful, you will not be able to generate resources. Show me somebody who has money to do anything. The foundation of money is resourcefulness. So it's not about you don't have money to start that business. It is about what other resources, how resourceful can you be so you can raise that money to start your business. I always fondly say that you can do what you don't like to raise money or so that you can start funding what you like to do. For example, it's true you don't have the money right now. Now, let's come to you. What kind of soft skills, technical skills, or vocational skills do you have that you can monetize and try to raise money to do that? What kind of other resources do you have that you can leverage upon that you can use to raise money, right? Or, for example, just as basic as social media and sales skills. Do you have those? Can you be able to negotiate a deal where you can get something from a source and market and resell and get commission? You just need to find the way that you can do what you can do with what you have to raise the money that you're looking for. And to say this, one of the biggest things that people do wrong who are trying to start a business is they pick an idea and they're looking for startup capital. They're looking for somebody to give them money. Except a family member and a friend who's going to give you money because of relationship and because of pity, nobody in his or her right senses will give you money for a startup idea. I provide a lot of startup investment advisory to investors and to startup entrepreneurs. And we see this every single day. Nobody wants to risk their money on something that is not proven. There's no data to prove whether there's a market for it, people can pay for it, and the future of that thing that you're producing. You get a problem? So if you are really serious at doing business or starting a business, one of the ways to prove your seriousness is to find a way to start that particular business. And many people who will give you money as investors or partners, they are not necessarily expecting you to bring a profit and loss statement that has a lot of money. At the beginning stage, what they're looking for is it a proven business? Is the product good? Is the service good? Is there a market for it? Can you sell? Do you have the skills to make this work? And they will give you their money. You get the concept? So I always like to say that I'm of the school of thought that you don't need external money to start a business. You need external money to grow a business. Many people have come to me in debts and loans from friends because they borrowed money to go start. That's guesswork and assumptions. It's so dangerous to borrow money and start a business from ground up. Very dangerous business move. Right? It's better, I encourage borrowing money to scale a business, to grow a business, because you are doing that from the place of data, information, experience, and a lot of things. So you have a high chance of succeeding. That's where the good debt and bad debt scenario comes in, right? So many people get to make this big mistake and it hurts them a lot. Like you see people now, they're crying of a failed business and they're crying of how will I pay back the money I borrowed. Okay, so you need to focus on being resourceful to raise the startup capital and start in a lean way. Never focus on raising all the money. That's another challenge. People want to have the complete capital before they start. Every business, no matter how big it is, you can start it very small. You can start from a very small angle and scale it gradually. So look at that angle in that whole process and find a way, which part of this business model can I start now and begin to make money, and start now, focus on idea validation, market validation, and gather all this data so that when you're even talking to a friend, you're talking with data. Don't go and say, I'm thinking of starting a business. Can you be a partner? A friend that has sense will not be a partner in that kind of business. But if you come to me as a friend and say, look, I started this business, this is the data. This is the marketing data, customer acquisition, expenses, and sales. It's not profitable, but if you come in with £1 million francs, 500,000 francs, I can guarantee you or can tell you that in the next 6 months, we'll start making this particular profit. You will easily see there are people that have money. People have money in banks. They have not just seen a lot of trustworthy, credible people that they can invest in them. People talk a lot of I am planning of, I am thinking of, I was thinking, planning, all of this stuff. But in business, it is numbers that build a business. It is results that build a business. It's not grammar that builds a business, right? Good. So, that is it for today. It was supposed to be a 30-minute session for me to answer 3 questions. Hopefully, after tomorrow, I will do another live session answering. You guys sent more than 100 questions, so every day I try to answer 3 or 2 or 4 depending on the length of the questions or the deepness of the questions. That's it for today. I hope that you learned a couple of stuff. Thank you so much for following. Thank you for sharing, for commenting, and see you after tomorrow, same time, between 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. In Cameroon. And of course, anywhere you're following this, around the same time, we're going to have another live session for me to answer more business career questions. Keep shining, keep building. You're rare, you're remarkable. Cheers.